how do you design and implement a disaster recovery strategy for your Power Apps on Azure using Azure Backup and Azure Site Recovery?
Oh, right. So mostly when it comes to developing or maybe creating or infrastructuring any of the resources onto the Azure, uh, we need to think of any kind of a disaster recovery plan. So it doesn't mean that the disaster is going to come, but we should be well prepared for that. So let's say, for example, we have important data. In
Mm,
that case, that data should be replicated to multiple territories, so maybe data centers, I will say. But again, while we do that, there are multiple aspects as well. So for example, I go for the globally redundant storage kind of a thing. So in that case, what can happen is like, for example, my data center is in India location, but I go for
mm,
GIRS, globally redundant storage kind of a thing. Then copy of my data will be stored in US or UK or anywhere else in the Europe or maybe even in Africa. So this is good kind of a thing. Let's say, for example, something happens in my data center, some catastrophe happens there. At least Microsoft or any of the provider who is maintaining that data center, they will be able to restore my data back from maybe US or from UK or any of the other data center. Again, it won't be the 100% recovery that you will get, but
mm,
mostly it is like you get almost 96% of data back to you, or maybe in terms of timeline, I will say you might lose on just 2 hours of data, but at least you should be able to get the entire previous data with you to work with. But again, there are other aspects as well. Like always, these GRS. This looks very much prominent because something happens at one data center. At least you have got the other continent covering for you, but this one has got also cost associated with your with that storage, because obviously the copy of your data is being stored into the other continent as well, right? So that means
mhm,
huge cost will be associated with that. Another point to consider here is like what kind of a data that you are storing. So let's say, for example, I'm working I'm working on maybe a sensitive kind of a data that
mm,
should not cross the boundary of any country. So let's say, for example, we have a PAN card data. So I'm not very much sure on this example, but at least let's say we don't want that it should cross the India boundary. So in that case,
yep.
obviously we cannot go ahead with those kind of an approaches. But based on what kind of an resources that we have in our hand, what kind of a solution that we want to develop, always look out for all those redundancy options. And then again from there we can best go ahead and use that. Again, mostly I will say whenever we are developing any kind of an request processing model. So let's say we are
Mm,
working onto the request ordering process or anything else. The best practice again is to probably go ahead with the queue kind of an architecture. So let's say uh, let's say for example I go ahead with the Azure functions. So Azure functions, they are very much quick, they are serverless, but maybe if I'm sending too many requests to my Azure function, there is a possibility that any of that might get misplaced. So but instead of that, probably I can store those into any of the queue, or maybe into the event hub. I can send all those events to the event hub where it can be stored, and then it can be processed one by one by Azure function. It could be kind of a nicer architecture to have. So there are various aspects, various scenarios in which what to fit. But again, based on what kind of an cost that you're looking at, what kind of an resources that you have in your hand, and again, what kind of an policies that you have in your organization or for the customers that you are
organization.
working on. You need to design those solutions, because there is no one size fit for all of the solutions that we are looking out for. So we need to consider multiple factors and then come up with the right solution.
Just as I asked you this question, just a little off topic, but still related
Yeah.
to our topic. When I asked you the question about these kind of disasters happening, it took me back to a scene I had seen in a particular series. Have you watched this series called The Good Doctor?
Oh, unfortunately, no.
Okay, no problem. I'll tell you. So, in one of the last seasons, the protagonist's love interest,
Mhm.
she's an IT department head, and one fine day it's shown like as if the entire hospital is haywire. Here and there computers are not working, the MRI scans are not working, none of the machines are working, and it's just before that, just one or two episodes before that, I think there is a huge argument about how her work is also as equal and as important. I think that's where it stems from, because her love interest is, I think, a doctor. um, and that's when, just a few episodes down the line, something like this happens, and the way she's running about and managing all of these things, I
Correct.
think, from a visual point of view, seeing that happening on a very large scale, where for almost 24 plus hours, such an important industry like hospital industry, where things are not working, I think
Uh,
you do
yeah,
need
that's
these kind of
disaster. True.
solutions then, right?
Correct. Correct. Yeah.
These kind of solutions would do help.
True, definitely, definitely. This is kind of a disaster and very much critical services that should never go off. And
Hmm.
definitely, we need to think of the redundancy kind of and things for us. And yeah, Miss, if you happen to meet with the director of that series, just tell them the Azure option.
Definitely.